I've seen about 28 films so far this year, but there's a lot that I haven't reviewed yet. Close to 14 movies that I've seen and haven't reviewed, so let's get started with another movie that I ended up seeing during an ice storm. And ironically, it was Cold Pursuit. Now on the surface, Cold Pursuit is a typical Liam Neeson action movie where someone does something to his family. In this case, someone kills his son, and he's out to take revenge on all the people that are responsible for that. But Cold Pursuit is actually a really good blend of a perfectly good crime drama mixed with a dark comedy. And it's also a remake, an American remake of a movie called In Order of Disappearance, which is available on Netflix last time I checked. Now, before I saw this in theaters, which was back towards the beginning of February, or was it towards the beginning of February? It was a few weeks ago, that's for sure. But right before I went to see the movie, I noticed that the original version was on Netflix. So I watched that right before going to see the movie. And I will say, if you've seen the original, this is practically the same movie. Granted, there's minor tweaks here and there because this is an American setting and it's an American movie. So we have American actors. We have the rival gang in the original film is, Serbian or something like that. Or maybe I'm thinking of what the crime boss always calls them. Maybe there's something else. But instead of being that, in the American version, the rival gang is Indians, Native Americans. So there's tweaks here and there to make it a little bit different. But for the most part, plot-wise, it is the same exact movie. Now, this could be a perfect excuse to condemn the remake, but I looked up the director, realized it's the same director of the original film. And there's more details in the American version. There's more character development for certain characters, especially side characters. There's better explaining of some of the characters' motivations, some of the things that were off in the first film. That's like, okay, how did they get from point A to point B? But it's better told in the American version, and there's a little bit of extra stuff in there that makes this version feel like a director's cut of In Order of Disappearance. And I admire that. I think the directing in this movie is solid. It feels like, okay, I know what I did was good, but I can make it better and make it a little bit more different. And it feels like the director really improved upon what he set out for in the first film, in the original. In this version, of course, they have a bigger budget, and the Denver area looks even more like a winter apocalypse than the first movie. Characters are developed a little bit more, motivations are understood more, or at least there's more build to some of the decisions that characters make in this film, because this is actually a very character-driven movie. This is a movie where characters make decisions, there's consequences, and it's like a domino effect on what happens throughout. They also give the cops a little bit more to do, which in essence does feel like it's playing off of the cliche in American movies where our hero's doing something wrong, but wrong for the good of everyone, and the cops are closing in trying to figure out who's killing all these bad guys. That's usually a side plot in these types of movies, and it almost feels like it's playing off of that cliche by giving these two cops more development than the original version. Because ultimately, even though this movie is dark at times, it is graphic, it is brutal, it is a thriller about revenge, it also is a blend of satire and dark comedy. And there's some really funny moments in this movie, and over-the-top ridiculous moments as well. For the most part, this movie is dark, it is serious, And I feel that some people could see it as a serious crime drama or a revenge movie, but at the same time, there are hilarious moments in the movie. There are over-the-top moments, and there is dark comedy. So it is satire in a way. Some of the times the comedy is over the top, like our main villain, played by Tom Bateman. He is amazing in this film, just how over the top and almost Quentin Tarantino-like. There's something about his performance that is just, that's how I could figure out this definitely has a comedic edge to it. I mean, how could you not laugh or realize that you're watching a bit of a comedy when our main villain is just upset that his son is getting this processed meat lunch, or like this sandwich, like it's a regular sandwich for lunch, and he's upset and he throws it out. He's like, I had no hand in this, no hand. And he's wants his son to be vegan or at least very healthy. So he's got his son on this strict diet of eating the same meal over and over and over again. Because not only is our main villain trying to be this drug lord, he's also dealing with a divorce and having to share his kid with his ex-wife. And then there are little funny moments, like moments where this awkward sort of comedy or this awkward moment that might happen in real life that most serious thrillers would skip over because it just wants to be serious and dark. Such as when they're in the morgue going to see their son or identify their son who died of a drug overdose, which was, of course, he was murdered, and it made it look like he died of an overdose. But as they're waiting to see the son, the guy has to like pump the gurney or whatever and get the son and at a certain height that we can actually see on the camera. So they're just awkwardly waiting as this guy's pumping, and it's just like as the body's slowly rising. But some people went into this movie thinking that it was just going to be a dark, serious thriller, and they got upset with the movie because of that, or they weren't expecting comedy, were laughing, and thought that, oh, it's a bad movie because I'm laughing because it's supposed to be serious. Well, no, you're laughing because it's actually meant to be funny. And then give the movie a bad score because of that. That's kind of stupid, but I kind of understand it because this movie does have a lot of serious moments and there is actually some good storytelling in it. It's just that every so often the movie reminds us, oh, it is a comedy. There is crazy things and there's some darkly humorous things and over-the-top things that's also a satire of the same kind of revenge thriller that it's playing off of. I like how this movie was shot. I like the score for the movie. It is different from the original, but it does feel like the same sort of instruments or the same sort of style was used for the score for this movie. I love just how much this movie is the same as the first film, down to how it cuts every time a person dies, it cuts to black or fade. It cuts to black, and it has the person's name and like they're a symbol of their religion and like sometimes their code name, showing you that that person died, and it just keeps doing that after every death to the point that it eventually becomes the punchline at times where it's like, oh, you know that person's dead. There is a lot of trusting in this movie because there's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of characters, and you just sort of have to trust that the movie will have a point to all of this. And for the most part, it definitely does. There are things that feel like it's just meaningless or just side story, when ultimately it helps decide the conflict and decide the twists that happen towards the end of the film. And while this movie is developed more and explained more, it's not explained more to the point where it's dumbed down. The only few things that I have bad to say about the film is sometimes the editing is choppy from scene to scene. Sometimes scenes end just too short, and then it's just like, okay, well, whoa, all right, on to the next scene, okay, fine. Now granted, it's less choppy in this version than it was in the original, but I have a feeling that that's just sort of a minimalistic style that some directors have, as well as maybe it's a comedic style where that it's cut short for comedic effect. And even though I feel this new version is overall better than the original, there are a few things that the original still did a little bit better than the new version. But in the end, I'm going to give Cold Pursuit a solid 4 stars. It was my first 4-star of the year because everything else to that point, 3.5s or lower. So, did you see Cold Pursuit? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews or countdowns of this year, of previous years, of whatever. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.